Let me thank the gentlelady for yielding this time. Mr. Speaker, across the country, Republican-led legislatures are pushing and passing laws that will suppress minority and elderly voters in the coming election. Under the guise of eliminating voter fraud, Republicans have a solution to a problem that simply does not exist. In my home state of North Carolina, where the Republican legislature is attempting to require voter ID at the polls, there were only 44 cases of voter fraud in the 08 and 10 elections combined. 44 cases out of over 7 million ballots cast. Is this a serious voter problem? No. Unfortunately, it is a cynical and malicious Republican attempt to suppress minority and elderly voters who turned out in historical numbers for the 08 elections. Almost 1/4 of African-American voting-age citizens and 1/5 of seniors do not have government-issued ID, yet new laws require them to pay for ID in order to vote. This is a poll tax. We must inform our constituents that their fundamental right in a democracy is being infringed and fight back against this voter suppression epidemic. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield now to my good friend, the Congress lady from Florida, Corrine Brown.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to address the House and revise and extend my remarks. All across the country, we are witnesses efforts to suppress minority voting rights. How has this been done? By deterring minority voters from registering to vote and from going to the poll. An organized effort to turn back the clocks back to the period prior to 1965 Voting Rights Act. I am from Florida. In my state, our governor, Rick Scott, is doing everything he can to follow steps of what has occurred across the country. To stamp out the gains we worked so hard for so many years to achieve. In Florida earlier this year, Governor Scott signed the omnibus election bill, which take away many of the Florida voters' basic rights. It includes numerous hideous items, much like that in the bills passed in other state legislatures around the nation to keep African Americans and Hispanics from going to the polls or refrain from participating in early voting in the upcoming 2012 election. The new laws passed in Florida would make voting more difficult for people who have recently changed residence, as well as shorter early voting time from 14 days to 6 days. It would provide a 100-foot buffer between voters standing in line to get information, and it goes on and on and on. And in addition, it imposes a $50 fine on election supervisors who are late in filing routine reports to the state. You know, after what happened in Florida in the 2000 coup d'etat, it is amazing to me that Florida would pass such hideous laws, and I think it's very important that the Justice Department weigh in and that the people in Florida are not disenfranchised.